Welcome to today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. I'll start by showing what happened yesterday where there was an enhanced risk up in this general area centered on the screen, which is northern Illinois and parts of southeast Iowa. And indeed, there was one tornado report off to the east of Iowa City. And there may have been some other reports that haven't trickled in yet from the squall line. That remains to be seen. But primarily, hail reports were pretty substantial. If it's a green circle, it fits the minimum requirement for a severe hail event, which is 1 inch, like this area right here. But we had some that were approaching 2 inches. In fact, I see a 3-inch diameter hailstone there in southeastern Iowa. And the wind, which, is just at, if it's a yellow kind of gold circle, it's a little bit below criteria, but if it's an orange circle, it's above the criteria. So we had some pretty wind gusts in the Windy City in Chicago, and some 60-mile-per-hour gusts kind of scattered through northern Illinois, central Illinois, and in through eastern Iowa as well. So what's going on today? This is the setup here. We look at the IR satellite loop. The sun just coming up, so we're using just another means to sense where clouds are, which is temperature. And it's an interesting pattern. The main upper level feature is back here, and we have this kind of general flow across the area here at the 500 millibar level. We have a front that's draped through here, and we have another front, a warm front, that eventually will be kind of moving northward today to southern Iowa, Missouri-Iowa border, somewhere in that vicinity. If we take a look at the 500 millibar flow, this is what I mean. So the surface, so this closed-off low is in Wyoming, and then we just kind of have this general flow. Are there little short waves in here? Maybe. That could come into play today as we look at this overall scenario. And because one of the things about this severe weather outlook today is that it is somewhat conditional. So here is the severe storm risk today. So it's a level 3 still. This is unchanged from yesterday for southern Iowa and northern Missouri pretty much. Maybe a small chunk of western Illinois. Then a slight risk surrounds that, level 2. And notice how this kind of extends along what is going to be a warm front here today. My crude attempt at drawing a warm front, and I probably won't ever do that again. And then down along the Pacific front and the dry line down through here, some thunderstorms will develop as well. So that explains the geometry of what's going on here. This is the highest risk area for supercells with the largest hail, wind, and tornado potential. If you zoom in on that a little bit, you can see Kansas City not quite in this, but pretty darn close. We do have Quincy, Illinois is in this. So is Ottumwa, Iowa. Most of southern Iowa and northern Missouri pretty safely in this zone for just any kind of severe weather. That's what this risk really is talking about. Any of the modes: tornado, severe hail, or damaging severe winds. Look at the tornado risk, and this is interesting because they do take it, and remember this forecast, all of these forecasts I show you in the morning are 24-hour forecasts, so it's important to realize that this forecast is valid till, in the central zone, it would be 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So this could be some nighttime activity here because as the warm front lifts north, I think some of the tornado risk might go with it. And then we do have a little bit of a tornado risk along the advancing cool front. And so as a storm chaser today, which I intend to do, we're going to kind of see, I think my initial kind of reaction would be to go up here to northwest Missouri. There is a gamble. You could go along the warm front. You can go as far to the east as Illinois today. The thing of it is, you got to choose. You can't have this one and this one. So you could conceivably chase this and then come back down and catch this stuff along the front eventually. But anyway, so that's a 5% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile circle, wherever you happen to be or draw the circle. So it's, and it's kind of conditional on the development of supercells. And it's a pretty good situation. If a supercell were to develop, the conditions would be ripe for a tornado. But the big question is if. I wanted to look at Nadocast here, and it does highlight northern Missouri, southeast Iowa, parts of central Illinois for today. This is a machine learning model, as is the next one I'm going to show you, which means it goes back in the past, looks for pattern matching, and then gets the latest model data and just compares all that stuff and comes out with an output of what we can reasonably expect. So they are in agreement on the 5% at least for that, about that same area. But SPC actually has it down a little bit more into western Missouri. As far as the CSU model, same kind of deal. They have a bullseye there right over southeast Iowa. So that's a warm frontal storm. Now, remember, if a storm were to cross the warm front, it probably has a good chance of firing a tornado, maybe not a very long tracked one. So this just says tornado. It doesn't say anything about how long they'll be on the ground or how strong they will be. So that's interesting. The hail threat for northern Missouri and Iowa, and the wind threat too. A lot of pattern matching going on there. In fact, if we go over to the SPC's outlook for severe hail risk, 15% chance from central Iowa all the way down the length of the cold front, and a somewhat enhanced risk, 30% of severe winds, either with individual cells or more likely the congealed squall line that'll develop in that area by later on this evening. Let's take a look at the HRRR, HRRR. Her, these are all nicknames for this model. So a couple things I want you to note. First of all, this is at 4 p.m. This squall line is developing here. This might be, we look at triple point chasing a lot, where the warm front meets the cold front. Everything's moving very fast, so I don't know if anything can survive long enough in this environment to be tornadic. Of note is this little lone supercell here. Again, that's the gamble of going over into Illinois and seeing if you can get a supercell to develop. And then this activity in Missouri keeps showing up. I don't think it's actually real or is going to develop. However, I do want to point out that there does seem to be some prefrontal convection indicated here at 4 p.m. And if I go to 6 p.m., same deal. See this little guy here in southeast Kansas? And maybe some of these in southwest Missouri if they develop in the warm part of the sector. In other words, there's no front here, so these would have to develop either by a hot spot or some other subtle means. But if they did develop, they're actually in a pretty good regime for severe weather. So we'll just have to wait and see. But, some of these individual cells, as long as they last, this will overtake it very quickly. Could be, tornadic, actually, especially if you go over into the Kansas, maybe not so much in southwest Missouri. Keep an eye on that. And again, this point is bolstered by looking at the 8 p.m. radar. So we have one squall line, but we have this other one here, and that's the one that concerns me the most, actually, for southwest Missouri. I'll do a heads-up video here in a minute. And again, we have a smattering of potential supercells here. I use a product that shows updraft helicity. That's at UH right there. That's supposed to be overlaid on this, and what's interesting to me is that virtually none of these cells have any mid-level rotation, which is what that would indicate. They would leave like a little black snail trail if they did, and I'm not seeing any. So this is going to be an interesting day to be sure. And this will last one more day, so this entire thing is going to flush out of here probably by tomorrow. There's a slight risk up in Ohio, and also and just kind of a conditional risk, really, in that other green area there along the front and surrounding that slight risk. And as far as CSU's idea of that, the threat seems to be centered up over Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York, and maybe a part of Michigan with a wind threat and a hail threat to go with that. This is the next 7 days, but clearly this summation of supercell intensity is all focused on today and tomorrow pretty much, and not much else for the next few days after that through the 9th. But I do want to point out that beginning on the 10th through the 16th, this activates again, and the week after that, week 3, we still have an active supercell enhancement pattern over the Great Plains, pretty typical for late April. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day 1 because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.